I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes. There's
that was the
Budweiser.
biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you
Yes.
boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new
Conspiracy
content.
confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
the field in Castro's hands, and he's going immediately. Gets a good jump there over green and is pulling away. He is gapping early, even moving over to try to break up any sort of slipstream or help that inside line, making sure Green has his hands full coming into T1.
York's chance. Did Jason give Antonio just a little bit of a slow up? It doesn't look like it. Antonio down to the inside. Hopefully going to be able to make this move. Oh, that was close.
Soto both coming very hot with a head of steam. Plava going up to try to move out of the way and give up the slipstream.
Here comes Gilliland.
Slow down. Gilliland coming in, going to try to challenge for this podium. They're going to go too wide.
Oh,
across the
no!
line. Oh, no! Gilliland and Plava come together. Gilliland's going to come back across the line in fourth place.
Quite going to get there. There's a little bit of a lock up there
Oh,
from the
my
46
goodness.
car. He's gone deep.
Ooh, I don't know how everybody was able to get through that. That could have been absolute tears for that front.
Welcome back for round 9 of the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, brought to you by Ray Esports, also racing and awareness of the and now I can't remember. Zippy, can you help me out? Who are we racing and awareness for? I believe that's an ostrich you're thinking of, but yes, they are raising an awareness of the ALS Foundation, mostly in honor of Russell Telker's father, in order to raise awareness and funds. So go check out the ALS Foundation website as soon as you can after the broadcast. But we're here in the beautiful, picturesque hills and mountains of Tuscany, Italy, to race at Autodromo del Mugello in the Spec Racer Fords. It's a nice, cool day here. We got a track temperature looking about 76 degrees Fahrenheit. Some clouds out there, but it's looking pretty clear, not too terribly windy. What do you expect to see out there on track today, Zippy?
Well, honestly, this being the SRFs and the Weekend Warriors, I'm expecting to see some very, very, very close racing. I see a couple of people have made it back. Again, it's good to see that Kane Lasky's here, Jörg Manny's here, LS Play, he's managed to make it. Hayden Bramley making a return as well. Now, certainly Hayden Bramley, one of the Motor Racing Academy instructors. He's one of the, I think he was the first person to pass the courses that Swirlio organized. And I do find he's incredibly quick, but I'm yet to see him have a good result for a while. Like, he's just so inconsistent. So really hoping to see a little bit more from him. Bobby West, another person to keep an eye out for. He's certainly got potential, and could be one of the more final seasons for him here in the Weekend Warriors, as he's going to be a dad.
Absolutely an important race for him, and we have yet to see any times up on the boards yet. We are joining you right at the kickoff of qualifying, so drivers still getting their out laps in and now starting to set flying laps. We're going to see some sector times start to trickle in here. Nobody quite got a lap time done yet, but Zippy, there's one interesting thing about this place. A lot of the newer tracks on the service, like Mugello, have distinct off tracks that are kind of enumerated in the rules section within the sim. This one, however, just lists an exception in text only instead of having pictures. And it says off tracks occur when the center of all four wheels are on the green painted asphalt. This includes the curbs that are painted green and white green with white marks, and this is applied consistently across the entire track. Now, the verbiage there gives me a little bit of concern. I don't know if we just have a bad grammar going on here, or if I'm not sure if iRacing is using the traditional center point of the car as being the off-track marker, or if they really mean the center point of all 4 tires, because it uses the word R when the center point of all 4 tires are on the green painted asphalt. So we'll have to keep an eye out on these drivers to see how much they're abusing this track limit, because that could come into huge play with the drive-through penalties and things like that for incident counts.
Well, I do know that these drivers would have certainly put in some practice, and it's fair to say that if the track limits are there, they're going to be familiar with them, and they are going to use them as much as they possibly can. It looks like Bobby West is going to be getting ready to start a flying lap in just a moment. He's just got to go around this long left-hander, but I'm going to get ready to pass over to you there, Randall, as you do the honors of the lap guide.
15 corners on this track that go through elevation changes, left-right changes, everything. So there's a lot to see in a lap around Mugello. And you'll see the first corner up ahead is actually going to be a right-hander, and they're set up on the right side of the track as they come down the front straightaway. That's because the front straightaway not very straight. As the straightaway bends, it's going to spit them over to the left-hand side of the track. They're going to brake just past that 100 board, get onto the binders, and get a nice late apex here. As the surface goes into an uphill transition, they're going to get a sacrifice that exit to keep the car to the right to open up the left-hander that follows. That gets immediately followed by another right-hander through turn 3. Then we got a short straightaway, maybe an opportunity to set up a passing move here going into turn 4. Going to bring the car to the right-hand side of the track. Got first a left and then another right, and then we see that the track transitions and goes over a crest at the end of this little straight to start going downhill into a very rapid turn 6 to the right. A sign conveniently points us back to the left, going through turn 7, and notice the car seems to be understeering through there even though it's downhill. And then a long right-hander in turn 8 that's going to spit you out to the left-hand side of the track, open it up all the way because you have another right-hander to go through. It's going to start transitioning back to the uphill and then again to the downhill as we approach the right-left of turns 10 and 11. So a lot of this right-left combination or left-right combination corners on this track. This is going to send them careening towards turn 12, which is a long right-hander this downhill, so you might see them struggling a little bit on braking and on turn-in with some oversteer as they get the car settled underneath them. And then at the very quick left-right chicane of turns 13 and 14, going to spit them out to the left-hand side of the track, bring it back over to the right because we have a very long left-hander in turn 15 that you got to get absolutely right. Get a nice late apex, get back to that throttle as early as you can, open up those hands, and have that massive run down the start-finish straight, just past, blowing past the pit entry here, down at the front straight to set a time, and we're going to see how this works out. And right now, Marco Pinero leads the way with a 2:04.730, and looks like Bobby West is going to be good for 6th with a 2:05.965, just barely ahead of Simon Mayer.
Well, it's definitely say, while I am not familiar with this track, Randall, it certainly has a lot of visually appealing features. I do like the curving on it. I think that's very pretty, but I got to say as well, we could see it from the viewpoint of Bobby West. I'm really loving the scenery here. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's Italy, it's notoriously beautiful, but I got to say, what a picturesque venue.
Not only is it Italy, you're in Tuscany, probably the most beautiful part of Italy. And so just the vistas all around, like, how do you not get distracted by this when you're in the car? Just everywhere you look, just absolute natural beauty.
Well, it's fair to say the camera is definitely not in my direction if that is the case, but we're going to try and find another driver. It looks like Andrew Love has gone yellow. Let's see if we can get some eyes on him, see how he's doing. Not yet set a time.
Andrew Love still needs to set a time, like you said, coming through the last bit of the track. Looks like he's coming through that final corner now, possibly. Sorry, no, he is on the interior of the track. Yes, that is the final corner. Man, this track it's got everything. The start-finish straight is on what we would consider the inside of the track. You're racing all around it. It's going left, it goes right. It's pretty easy to get lost if you're not familiar with the track. And I have to tell you, I'm not extremely familiar with this place when looking at it from the outside.
Well, like I said, it's definitely a new one to me, but the more I'm seeing these guys go around this venue, the more I'm thinking I may really, really enjoy this circuit. And actually, speaking of enjoy, we got a couple of newcomers here today. This is one of them, I believe. Oh, there we go. William Brown. So I had to have him added to the driver override. So he's going to be rocking a Lego paint job. And currently here, certainly in practice, he was actually P1. He was the quickest guy in practice and rocking a very generous 4,700 I rating. So it's fair to say he knows his way around. Another new driver we have here today, if I can just find him in the standings, where they're gone. It's this gentleman here, Michael Odell. He's going to be very, very barely into S2 there with a 29.48 I rating. So 52 points short of getting that bump. It'll be interesting to see how he does today. Maybe Wilkie will have some additional competition. I know that this gentleman here, Yan Cheek, very keen to have a little bit of rivalry there with the SMB superstar.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to a really good race. A pretty stacked field here today. Looks like right now we have 28 drivers in the session, which is a little thin for the Spec Racer Ford, but that many cars on a track like this, it's going to be action everywhere. Some of those new drivers are going to be looking to make their mark here. That new driver, William, in the Lego car, with that rating, I have high hopes for him. As long as he can keep all the bricks on that machine, he might be challenging Marco Pinero for the lead.
Well, it's fair to say Marco Pinero has been an absolute force to reckon with this season. We've seen some very close racing as he's gone back to the pits. But Jason Green having a pretty good day so far. He's currently qualified in second. But if you look right behind him, that's Bobby West. So Bobby West currently was getting a draft. Green's backed out of that. So that is an interesting thing about the open qualifying format. You know, you have other cars on track, and you know, this can be very, very beneficial here in terms of, you know, getting that faster lap.
So we're looking at about just under 9 minutes left in qualifying. So still a long time left to get your time in. While we do that, we're going to take a quick look at the points right now in Spec 1. Marco Pinero leading the way over that same Jason Green by a healthy margin, over 200 points. So Pinero walking away with his championship so far. Bobby West there in third place, looking to close that gap to Jason Green ahead. So maybe that's why Jason wasn't too keen to give him some slipstream. Then if we jump over to Spec 2, we will see that we have, in fact, Joshua Wilkie, SMB's own, with a pretty sizable lead over Paul Jackson and Paulo Brame. Paulo looking to close that gap up there on Paul Jackson to try to challenge for that second spot. Both of them hoping that Wilkie has a bad day to try to climb that mountain of points to get there to first place. And then we take a look at the Masters division. They're old, but they're not slow. Tom Gradwell leading the way with 453 over Adam Bradshaw, who has 409 points. Brad Cathcart only 1 point behind Bradshaw there, so keep an eye on that pair as they'll be dueling it out for the top three in the Masters division.
Well, it's fair to say that these guys are going to be hard at it, and we did actually have a lot of good action there in the previous race at Okayama in the Weekend Warriors Formula Fords, and I don't think these guys are going to be any different as Marco Pinero. He's just set a fast time, 2:04.699, so got Jason Green beat by about 2.5 tenths of a second. A little bit of zippy math there as I'm looking through the field as well. So Tom Gradwell, he's got that battle with Cathcart. Currently Gradwell sat a little bit higher in the order. He's really going to have to try and hold on to that, keep himself away from the 905 car of Cathcart.
And also Kurt Nunez is there. He's fourth in points, so maybe he's trying to inflict himself on this battle as well. So keep an eye on that number 918 of Kurt Nunez. He might be playing a bit of spoiler here for the top three. We see now that Gradwell is going to dip into the pits. Gets a bit of a lockup there. Pit entry here, pretty straightforward. Pit exit also pretty straightforward. But you need to get it absolutely right. Don't want to get a speeding penalty. And as far as pit strategy goes, with a big, long front straightaway like this, Zippy, are you thinking that you might want to come in a couple laps earlier than everybody else to try to get an undercut in? Or are you going to try to run it out of fuel before you go in?
I've always tended to go with the run it out of fuel approach, and sometimes that can definitely backfire, but I do believe these guys have one fast repair, if I'm not mistaken, so certainly pitting early carries an extra set of risk, but don't get me wrong, when it pays off, Antonio Reese, Stevie Ray, both being the gentlemen I'm thinking of, one of the people, well, two of the people, I guess, in the early pit stop strategy where it does often work out in their favor. Myself, I don't rate my driving talents that highly. I tend to want to try and keep that fast repair in the bank, or certainly if I have to go down the pit road for any reason, I want to try and prolong that as much as possible. Plus, my logic is, that's more time carrying more fuel, having that early pit stop. So generally, the lighter the car, the more speed, in theory, it's able to produce.
Absolutely right. And speaking of Stevie Ray and Antonio Reese, neither of them are in the session that I can see, so we don't know who's going to play the role of the Pied Piper of pit strategy. So your guess is going to be as good as ours. And when the actual pit window will open, they typically run enough fuel to go on for about 30 minutes. So normally about 10 minutes into the race, 10 to 12 minutes into the race is when the pit window actually opens, though we don't normally start seeing drivers come in until about that 20-minute mark. 20 to 25 minutes is when we first start seeing heavy traffic on pit lane. And then around that 30-minute mark, everybody else starts to come in.
Oh, absolutely. And as I'm having a quick look at the timing right now, we did say that Michael O'Dell could be a new threat for Wilkie. Well, it's fair to say he is exactly that. He's not very far behind him in the qualifying standings right now. But if you look between himself and Jim Brewster, just 3 thousandths of a second separating the two.
They're absolutely on the same pace. So we'll probably see them battling it out throughout the entire event. Maybe they can work together to try to track down Wilkie. But Wilkie going to have his hands full, it looks like, today. Not only does he have new competition, but he's mired all the way back in 10th place. And that doesn't seem like it's very far back for a Spec 2 driver, but that means there are a lot of chances for something to happen in front of you to take you out of the race or possibly give you a bunch of positions just right off the start.
It definitely could go in many different ways. We see Philip Berry there pulling off the track. Let's have a quick look, see who else is currently looking to set a time. Marco Pinero has actually just gone purple. Let's see, purple and the green. He was 204.699. He has improved, expanding the gap over Jason Green. He's now done a 204.581, really showing absolutely astonishing pace here at Mugello.
Green going to have an absolute task to try to keep on the gearbox of Marco Pinero to not let him run away. With that extra speed that Pinero has, Jason Green might be able to latch on to him, to that trailer hitch, and get pulled along, and maybe we'll see a breakaway form at the front of this field, because there's another 2/10 back to Kane Lasky. So we could see a bit of a breakaway, but keep your eyes on Marco Pinero. If he gets a good start and is able to catch Jason sleeping, he might have an easy drive today where he just drives away from the field and starts managing his fuel.
Well, that is one of the things that these guys will be keeping in mind. And I've just seen Jan Janchik is saying that he is not a fan of the drafting in qualifying. Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one, Jan. I personally think it's absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. You can see Philip Berry. He's currently sat back quite far in the grid, 22nd overall, and he's been quite smart. He's seen Jason Green ahead of him and is trying to latch on the back and get some draft. They're currently on an outlap, so it's going to be cutting it a little bit close, but we'll see if he can go and slingshot himself up through the order.
Yeah, and these cars don't seem to suffer too much from dirty air, so being able to follow somebody is going to improve your time anywhere you're going full throttle and anywhere you're going in a straight line, as long as he keeps it close enough. The draft here we saw at Road Atlanta was effective out to as far as a second. Now, Road Atlanta, the speeds are a little bit higher, so they're punching a bit of a bigger hole in the air. So some of these sections where the speed isn't as high, you need to be a bit closer. But if you're within a half second, you should be seeing a massive effect from the slipstream. And while I understand Jan's concern with qualifying and people getting slipstream and it's getting gamed, every single rule that exists can and should be gamed. So no surprise there that we see drivers gaming the system with the open qualifying format, using it to their advantage as much as they can.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like you said, sometimes you need to have some friends on the track. Well, they don't always necessarily have a choice, ladies and gentlemen. Certainly you can often just, pick a car ahead of you and just try and basically exploit them for everything that they can. And that's certainly what Philip Berry is trying to do. They were on an outlap last time round, I believe. But is that going to be the case, or... Yes, and now they'll be starting a flying lap. So Philip Berry absolutely right up behind Jason Green. Now, this strategy, it is a great strategy, but it does have some downfall. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. You need the guy ahead of you to be faster, but not so much faster that... Oh, See one of the guys there getting a little bit sideways as they head around that turn. But you need them to be faster, but not to the point where they pull away. You need like that happy medium for pace. So it would be interesting to see if that's exactly what Philip Berry can do. Can he stay with Jason Green and improve on his time? He's currently back in 22nd. A good time will be absolutely huge. I mean, looking at how close the standings is, I mean, you can see it on the left-hand side of your screen. Temps between...
He's bailing. We saw there. So now we have an answer to our question. There's some bad grammar in the rules. He got too far wide, but it was not the center point of his inside wheels that were off the curb and onto the green. And it was far enough wide to give him the off track. So he just abandons the lap. Good on him. If I'm in Phil Berry's shoes, I continue to follow Jason Green. He's so much faster than Phil that you could learn a thing or two, even if you don't get to set a good time.
Well, that's definitely something that I've generally done. If I struggle at a track, I'll try and find somebody faster than me. And JG2, always a good person to follow. Don't get me wrong, if you can stay with the guy. But it's certainly one of the things you have to factor in. And sometimes as well, it's not just being able to copy them and copy where they're braking, where they're turning, and stuff like that. It's the setup as well. Now JG2, I will admit, is very kind. He does share his setups with the group, and I got to be honest, I've been running his Alton Park one whenever I've been running the SRF, and it got me a P2 yesterday in a fun race. Honestly, it would have been P1, but I got rear-ended by somebody who was 200 I rating, and my auto fuel calculator didn't work, so there was definitely a few mistakes made on my part as well. But it's fair to say the car handled absolutely amazing. But yeah, generally as well, the Weekend Warriors, if you're on about, that looked like maybe an off track, if you're on about maybe getting involved in a league, I would strongly suggest choosing this one. Spinero's gone purple.
Goes purple again with a 2:04.581. Not much faster than his previous time, but still faster. And he goes even faster again. 2:04.508 opens up that gap to P2, who's now Hayden Bramley by nearly half a second, 4.425 of a second, with Jason Green right there on the tail of Hayden Bramley. So Green actually might be in a good position here to get a really good start and be able to hang on to the back of Pinero's car by being in the same line as him. So Hayden Bramley's going to have to be the one that's on the knife edge and watching Pinero like a hawk to see when he goes so he doesn't get caught sleeping.
Oh, absolutely. Now, as I'm looking at right now, we're like watching Kane Lasky. There is not even a tenth of a second between himself and newcomer William Brown. William Brown also out on the track in that Lego car. So very, very close between them. I believe they're actually the last three cars on track. Michelle Viglini on track but stopped. So these two guys currently, no, William Brown's come to an end. So Kane Lasky, the last one on the move. We'll see if he can put in a lap. I believe that is the final turn. I actually got that right.
It is the final corner. You're going to see him do pit entry practice. Judging on the time, there's no way he would have started that lap in time. So you already have the checkered flag. Going to take one more stab at the pit entry. Not a terrible idea. See where that absolute brink is of where you can hit the brakes, because it could make the difference. And now that qualifying is over, we're going to take a look at that starting grid here for the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford at Mugello. And on your pole position, it is Marco Pinero with a 2:04.508. It looks like the session is still ticking and waiting to become actually official, so it's not loaded yet. So Marco Pinero provisionally still on pole with a 2:04.508. No other cars on track. So that's as official as it could get. But we're still waiting for it to load. We're still waiting for the session to kick over and not seeing it yet. It's still, I'm not 100% sure what's going on here. Now we should be seeing it kick over.
Well, it's fair to say sometimes it does take a little bit for the iRacing session to kick over. And thank you, Wolfman, as well. We've just done an adjustment to that for you. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Randall, would you like to do the first 12, sir?
Officially on pole, Marco Pinero, and then alongside him will be Hayden Bramley, who was 4 1/4 tenths slower in qualifying. Jason Green gonna be P3 with a 2:04.943, and then we get into the 2:05s. Kane Lasky in 4th. William Brown, newcomer, they're starting P5 in a good position to have an amazing race and debut here in the Weekend Warriors. Daniel Wood, who we see a lot of the times a little bit further back, is going to be starting P6. Aleix Pleva The exact opposite. We normally see him up there in the top 3, going to be starting 7th. Then on your Masters Division poll, Tom Gradwell leading the way in the points, leading the way in qualifying, starting P8th. Simon Mayer going to start P9. Joshua Wilkie on the Spec 2 poll in P10. Behind him is going to be Bobby West and Brad Cathcart.
As we have a look at 13th now, the Masters are back out again in force. It's Adam Bradshaw, ladies and gentlemen, alongside Jim Brewster. Michael Odell for Odell Motorsports. He takes up 15th spot on the grid in his debut event here at the Weekend Warriors. Kurt Nunez alongside in 16th. Yan Yanchik, he's there in 17th with Jeff Jacobson in 18th. Andrew Love takes 90th. 90th? That'd be a big grid. Andrew Love takes 19th with Paul Jackson in 20th, with Russell Telker in 21st, Philip Berry in 22nd, with Michelle Viglini in 23rd, and Gary Wobol in 24th.
The 25th sees Joaquin Effinger, who is the last one to set a lap time. And then behind him, everybody that didn't set a lap time, and so far it looks like all of them have taken to the grid. So we have 5 drivers that are going to be trying to drive through. The likes of Jörg Manny, Andrea Favini, Kevin Adrian, Richard Galen, and Paulo Bream. Paulo in a pretty big points battle, so surprising to see him not set a lap time in qualifying and start in the back. He's going to be 30th, so maybe just a late arrival. We had 28 through most of qualifying. Now we have 30 on the grid. So Richard Galen in the Masters and Paulo Bream in the Spec 2 are both going to be at the very rear of the field. They were the last 2 to join. So maybe we did have some issues with the first session that was created. So they may have been over in the other session wondering, where the heck is everybody?
Yeah, that's definitely fair, and I will say complete sympathy to Stevie as well. Like, setting up these sessions and organising this league is a lot of work. There is a lot of buttons to press, and there's a lot of time involved in doing it. Certainly when I set up that charity race, I was there I knew what I wanted to do, but honestly, I was struggling, and Stevie very kindly helped me navigate that. So certainly not going to give him a hard time for having a little bit of a modification of the session, making a fresh one. I can't fault him in the slightest for that, and certainly anybody who has organised an iRacing league will completely understand how that feels.
I organize a league in iRacing, and I can't tell you a single season that has gone by that there wasn't at least 2 or 3 sessions that were wrong. And we only run 12, so that says something about my management skills.
Fair to say. It's one of the things, I've done a lot of different things in iRacing, Randall, but organising a league, I've never had to do that, like, independently kind of deal. I'm a league admin over at BIS, but Mike handles most of that, and I'm very much okay with that. There's so many variables involved. I'm just more like the consult, I guess. You know, he's thinking of something, I'll be like, yeah, no, yeah, I like the idea. You know, the quality control, as if it were. But looking at this grid, it's fair to see as well, the Masters in the Formula Fords, they had a lot of presence, certainly in the top 10. And today, a little bit more spread out. They're kind of taking from 7th to 15th is the majority of them. There's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Masters sliding into that spot on the grid. So it'd be very interesting to see. The S1's very dominant today, taking the top 6 spots, but Wilkie able to sneak up to P8. Well, P8, P9. Definitely an interesting field variety indeed.
This is one of the newer circuits on the service. Not the newest, but one of the newer ones. So we may have some drivers that aren't necessarily as up to speed with this track, don't have as much experience on this track in this car. So we'll see some development in the race. Probably some drivers that we expected to qualify a little bit faster will find some speed through the race and are able to fight their way up. Or possibly we'll see some people get into trouble because they don't understand the dynamics of how this track works in a race setting. But this is one of those tracks. It's very, very technical. So you're going to see a lot of separation based just purely on skill. The cream is going to rise to the top in this instance, as we see from the roll bar here of Marco Pinero as he's behind the pace car. It's a nice long lap. Even at speed, takes over 2 minutes in these cars. So they have plenty of time to work on those tires and brakes, get them up to temperature, and get themselves set up to start. Turn 1 is going to be high speed with cold tires. It could get really hairy.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I did notice just then is I could hear him dip the clutch. I think he's trying to save fuel even on the outlap, Randall. So certainly some interesting tactics going on for the race leader. Well, pole sitter is Marco Pinero. I say the race leader, Hayden Bramley's kind of having a little bit of fun there with the pace car, giving the... what's the guy's name who does it for Formula 1? Like Bert Geringer or something like that, who would be doing it? You know the guy I mean, Randall.
Bernd Mailander.
That one, yes. Yeah, Burt getting a little bit of unwanted attention potentially from Hayden Brownlee in the 0-0.
Now the pace car's coming through the last corner. We'll see if Marco Panero lets the pace car get away a little bit. Doesn't look like he's too eager to build a huge gap because he probably doesn't want to go super early, doesn't want to give that much opportunity for slipstream. The iRacing pace car dips into the safety of the pit lane, and we're going to see this field of 30 Spec Racer Fords come down the front straightaway, waiting for Marco Panero to lead them down to take the green flag, and he's waiting. Green flag is in the air. They are underway. Marco Panero with a good enough jump, and it looks like Hayden Bramley going to tuck in the line behind him, so he's not able to run away from Hayden Bramley, but does get that position covered off. And now we see them dicing behind Hayden Bramley, feeling a little punchy there, causing Panero to defend going into turn 1. Panero going to be a bit compromised on his entry, but it should be okay. He's going to keep that lead position from Hayden Bramley. We see them trying to work themselves out through the field. We see Wilkie on the inside of turn 3 trying to get a move done here on Aleix Pleva, and a few more cars back. They're still too wide coming through the third corner, trying to work themselves out, mostly getting single file after turn 4. But we still see some battling going on there with the number 27 of Favini trying to make his way through the field. We already see those drivers starting to get some positions off of that start alone. Jörg Manny lost a couple spots. Favini gained 1. Paulo Brain gained 3 or 4.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start indeed. There is battles happening throughout, and this is Tom Gradwell right now. He's trying to take a piece out of William Brown ahead of him. So Gradwell leading the Masters division as it stands, and you already see William Brown. He very much seems very familiar with how these cars work, tucking right under the back of Aleix Pleva, and these guys very, very quickly getting into single file. It is going to be, I wonder, are these guys going to be trying to save fuel, or are they going to try and fight as hard as they can in the opening stages of this race just for that outright grid position?
You got to think that right now track position is the most important thing, so you're going to be 10/10 trying to keep your position or gain some, just like Joshua Wilkie did, the biggest winner here on the start, up 4 positions from 10th to 6th, knocking on the door for the top 5 finish. So great start for Wilkie. We'll see if he's able to keep it up. Right now we see them all single file, not a lot of dueling going on, but we have a possible move here. Bradshaw under pressure from Odell. Is Odell going to make the move? No, he's not. Bradshaw going a little bit defensive here into the last corner, but Odell not really looking to make a move quite yet. But this is going to be your number 1 passing opportunity coming down the front straightaway. Going to get a huge dose of that slipstream and going to be looking to make a move into turn 1. Hayden Bramley gets a huge run out of the last corner. Panero is going to keep to the right. Bramley going to the left, and he's going to be the new leader of this race. Hayden Bramley takes the lead. Kane Lasky here all over the back of Panero. So Panero maybe already trying to employ some fuel saving, letting Bramley have that lead so he can get some of that slipstream. We know that Marco Panero is a master of fuel strategy. He's able to save fuel all the time and not sacrifice much speed. Wilkie still sitting in 6th, now feeling the pressure from Daniel Wood. He's going to have to push to try to close that gap up to Pleva. It looked like he had the position on Pleva during the first lap. Now Pleva has that spot back.
Well, certainly some interesting battling going on indeed. It looked like Wilkie went a little bit wide there, but one thing I did notice as well, Hayden Bramley and Marco Panero, as they went down the start-finish straight, opposite side of the tracks, I don't think it's necessarily just fuel saving. I think Bramley is trying to break that drop. As you see, it looks like JG2 getting even closer to the back there of Kane Lasky. These guys fighting. More fights happening as well. Wood is absolutely applying the pressure. William Brown right behind. Is Brown going to be able to make a move? It looks like he was having a little bit of a sniff, but not yet able to get it done.
We're starting to see some little gaps form in the middle sector of the track, which is definitely the most technical part of the track. So that's where the wheat is going to be separated from the chaff when it comes to pace. So we see there ahead of Wilkie, a bit of a gap up to Pleva, and ahead of Kane Lasky, a bit of a gap up to Panero. So already we're starting to see some little gaps form. They're still not out of slipstream range quite yet, so there's a chance for them to rally on the front straight and some of these short straights in the middle of the lap. But already these little gaps starting to form. We might start seeing these get bigger and bigger as the race goes on.
Well, there's definitely a lot of battles going on, and that looks like that car a little bit further back. That does appear to have a little bit of damage back there. I'm just trying to find which car it is. Oh dear, that's
that
Cathcart.
goes off. Cathcart going very, very wide there in the final corner. That's going to make him lose some positions, not only in that corner, but down this entire straightaway. That really kills his momentum. So he's going to be dropping down the board. We see Odell did get around Bradshaw and then established a bit of a gap. but that gap up from him up to Bobby West is 2.5 seconds nearly. So we saw that's our first big gap on the track as we see Jim Brewster here and Kurt Nunez fight with each other. Kurt Nunez looking to get some spots and make his way into that fight for the top 3 points in that Masters division. Kurt Nunez applying the pressure here to Jim Brewster.
Oh, absolutely. And we see Nunez had a very, very good result very recently. A couple of races ago, he was absolutely thrilled to be up on the podium, certainly for the Masters. But we have 3 of them together right now. Bradshaw, Brewster, and Nunez all fighting for the P2 overall in Masters. As I see, Les Plaver, he's going to set the fastest lap just now with 204.2. Battles happening throughout. Very well worked out for Wilkie at the minute. He's in P6 overall. On the back of Jason Green, he's got Wood behind him and Brown behind that, but certainly 6 places ahead of his nearest competitor. That's Michael Odell, and Odell a newcomer here, so not really a championship threat. This is looking very good for Wilkie right now in the S2 championship.
Just got to keep that car clean. Try not to get any damage on it. This track is very, very sensitive to aero damage on that front straightaway. You'll lose a lot of speed if you did in that front end. We see, who's this going on the inside of Nunez? Nunez going to go defensive here with Jančić. Going to try to get the move done, and he's going to stay alongside. Oh, it just barely gets it covered off, so he's going to have a nice late apex. Try to get a run here, but not quite close enough to get it done through this section of the track, but he's going to be very, very eager to get this move done on one of the upcoming straightaways. He's in a good position. We see they're fighting ahead of him, so he might be able to do something opportunistic here, get Brewster on the inside if he's going to go for it. Yes, he gets it done. Nunez runs a little bit wide there, dealing with some understeer. So looks like Jan's going to get a really good run off of the final corner here. He could get 2 spots with Slipstream. He's going to tuck back into line behind Brewster. So Brewster able to rally there on that outside line, get his foot down early. But now Jančić going to have a good run on the outside. They're going to go 3 wide into turn 1. This could get really hairy as there's a bit of bumping. There's some contact there. Nunez on the inside. A lockup from Jančić as he's going to get both those cars. And then Brewster going to try to make it work on the outside. It's not quite going to happen, but he's still alongside. Going to have the inside for turn 3. And then that's going to give Nunez back the inside for turn 4, and Nunez keeps that position. But Jančić, what a drive down into turn 1. 3 wide, gets both of them.
Well, it's definitely a high-risk maneuver, and if you're wondering where the standings have gone, I got them out of the way. There was just so much going on. We needed to have the real estate on screen for you, and we're going to bring them back right now. But what an absolutely fantastic move by Jančić. Very, very, for lack of better words, Randall, it was ballsy, but it paid off for him.
Absolutely did. Flexing his muscles here early in the race. Now he's really got to get the visor down, get on that button and try to close that gap ahead of him, because that's 2 seconds. There's not going to be any slipstream from Odell at that range. So he's really got to get on with it and try to pull these guys back up to Odell. Andrew Love here looking to get a little bit aggressive. He's going to go on the inside here, get one position, going to try to get into the slipstream of Brewster. Not going to get it done. The switchback bites him. He doesn't have the preferred line there. So, but looking to get the move done on Jeff Jacobson. Going to keep fighting. Jacobson forced to go defensive here on the right-hander. Going to give a good run to Andrew Love. He has to back out of it and give the spot to Favini. Favini making his way through the field. Favini going to be slicing and dicing his way through the midfield through the next coming laps. We should see some pretty aggressive driving out of him. He is absolutely flying as he's going to look to the inside, gets that covered off, has to back out of it a little bit. Now in the final corner, going to look to get a big run with the slipstream to try to get the move done before he gets to turn 1.
I gotta say, Favini is probably one of my favorite drivers on the grid. I love the fact that he starts at the back each time. As I've seen, Daniel Wood has just gone down the pit lane. I'm not sure why. We'll take a quick look at that early. It's a little bit early for pit stops, in my opinion, Randall. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But right now, Favini having a battle with Jacobson there. And certainly Favini up 11 spots right now. And maybe able to make that 12 spots as he continues to make his pursuit through the grid. Jim Brewster next on the firing line. And it's fair to say that it's a little bit of defensive driving there, trying to close off Jacobson behind him. But he's definitely got some pace here at Mugello.
Yeah, now Jacobson's going to be feeling the pressure once again from Andrew Love. So Andrew Love back into this fight with Jacobson after a brief interruption by Favini. So I think maybe Love was playing the smart game here and said, if I let Favini through, I might be able to do something opportunistic, or maybe it'll just unsettle Jacobson just a little bit having to deal with it. Maybe it'll cause Jacobson to overdrive those tires a bit, and Andrew Love will have an easier go out of it. But right now, Jacobson able to hold off Love, trying to keep on the gearbox of Favini ahead, but Favini's already getting smaller and smaller in this camera view.
Oh, absolutely, and he's absolutely pushing it as far as you can. You see Andrew Wood using a little bit of the extra bits of track there. It tells me Jorg Manny's gone off track as well, just checking in very quickly. Whereabouts is Jorg right now? He's currently sat back up 2 spots right now. Car's intact. He did say he would be starting from the pits for this one, as we got a couple of drivers battling back here. Himself, Kevin Adrian, both of them starting at the back, Philip Berry ahead, certainly not where he wanted to be. Currently holding even to where he started, but certainly not on his best pace today. You see Paulo Breme ahead of him, Russell Telker as well. That is this week's sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, for the ALS Foundation. Let's keep that in mind. It's in honor of his late father as well.
And Daniel Wood now sitting 30th, down 24 spots.
Squeeze!
Big move by Janček. Really squeezing Kurt Nunez there. So Nunez trying to fight back and get that spot back from Janček. Probably a bit of chaos being introduced here by Favini as they're going to go 4 wide down the front straightaway.
Oh my gosh.
Janček with an absolute freight train of run off that final corner. Going to get the spot back from Nunez. Going to have, is that Brewster on the inside, Favini on the outside. Favini looking to get around all these drivers. Maybe 3 wide going through turn 1 was really, really dangerous stuff. Favini on absolute eggshells out there off the racing line. Going to get a bit of that rubber onto his tires. Going to have to play it carefully here through turns 3 and 4. Janček doing a pretty good job of being defensive here. Look at a little Verstappen-esque in the last corner, though, running wide there with Kurt Nunez and Brewster. Not sure if that was intentional, maybe just the result of hard driving.
Well, he's certainly, at the minute, he keeps firing shots, and I feel like he's playing roulette, and at the minute, he's got 3 shots fired, and there's only 6 in the chamber, potentially, you know. I know that wasn't a completely accurate metaphor, but ladies and gentlemen, you got the idea. You get what I'm trying to say. It's all about the intention, not necessarily the execution. That's another shameless pun there. Let's try and turn this a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more positive broadcast. You see these guys are scrapping. Jacobson there. He's got... No, I'm going to keep rolling with it. He's got Brewster in his crosshairs right now, trying to hunt down and get the P16 away from the Master ahead of him.
So not only has Jacobson been able to fend off Love, he's now applying the pressure to the Masters driver of Jim Brewster. And if you look ahead of them, Andrea Favini is absolutely driving away from this group. He's becoming a speck in the windshield of these drivers and quickly trying to close that gap up to Michael O'Dell. So if these drivers can keep their stuff together, they might be able to tail along with Andrea Favini, get up here, close that gap to Michael O'Dell, who's still involved with Adam Bradshaw. These two have been together the entire race. They have not necessarily been fighting too much, but they have been right there. O'Dell keeping the pressure on Bradshaw the whole time. We're only what, 12 minutes into this race, and it's so exciting.
Well, as you can see here, Michael O'Dell is choosing not to go for the pass. He wants to bump draft, and if you look behind him, I don't blame him. He wants to keep Favini, Nunez, Brewster, Janček all away from him. And actually, speaking of which, I got a feeling these guys are going to be going at it again. How many wide this time? 3 wide, 2 wide. 2 wide again. I wasn't sure if they were going to force it 3 wide. Brewster looked like he was running out of places to go.
Nunez runs really wide there on entry, gonna push Brewster really wide, gave Janček maybe an opportunity. We saw a little bit of contact between Nunez and Janček as they came up to turn 1. So these guys have their elbows out early. You guys need to calm down a little bit. You're gonna really overheat those tires. It's going to be who's going to be the first one to break out of this group. It's really tough to say. Janček looked very aggressive both on attack and defense. So Janček trying to make a mark here, trying to prove himself.
Well, he's definitely fighting very, very hard. Let's have a quick look at the lead pack, because right now it's still four of them really fighting for it. And well, I say that 4, 6, 7, 8. You know what? Who isn't in this pack? Let's keep going here. Bobby West, he's still in it. What about Gradwell? Okay, so really is the top 9 are fighting for P1 right now, and my apologies, but we don't really want to focus all of the time on the top of the grid because there's just so many battles happening. So many battles happening here at the Weekend Warriors, and it's fair to say that this is going to be one of them where, you know, it's almost like a lottery ticket here. We saw Kane Lasky last race at the Formula Fords having an incredibly short pit stop, but if in a little bit too short, gave away a couple of positions at the end. He's going to be interesting to watch for Fuel Tactic as well. Wilkie's managed to move up. He's now in P5 overall as he's sending it on Marco Pinero and Hayden Bramley, and that's a little bit of a nudge there. Buy one, get one free machine as Wilkie goes and does 2 in one corner.
He heard the deal. He's got the coupon for Asta. Gets both of those positions. Elbows out. Josh Wilkie says, look out. Here comes slow motion broadcasting.
Oh, absolutely. And you can already see there, Bramley looks like he's trying to give him a little bit of a shunt. You can see the guys ahead of him. The JG2 currently ahead. A less flavor in second. Look at the closing speed there. Wilkie there on the brakes. These guys all scrapping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars right now. All fighting for that P1 spot. As we got another pit. See some gaps.
We thought we were going to see some gaps forming, and we're not. With Kevin Adrian currently in the pit lane. Joaquin Effinger is taking a long pit stop here, so getting some repairs done or something wrong with that car. This battle for the lead, though, is crazy. We've seen 4 or 5 different leaders, and now Wilkie going all aggressive, getting 2 and 1 there in the last corner. Now has Marco Pinero, who's gotten around Bramley on his rear bumper. We'll see how long he's able to hold this position. Jason Green getting the move done on Aleix Pleva this lap, so taking over the lead of this race. And Marco Pinero probably was thinking, all right, well, the amount of slipstream on this track is just not worth it to try to fight to keep the lead. I'm just going to sit back here in the pack and try to save some fuel and keep my nose clean, and good luck to him. It is absolutely wild up here.
Oh, it very much is, and it's another thing as well where it can be very interesting on how you want to play a race depending on the point structure. So the race I did yesterday actually gave you a point for every lap that you led. So certainly if that was part of it, all of a sudden there is going to be a bigger fight for the lead. But again, you got to weigh up. Do you want to burn off the most fuel? And don't get me wrong, you may lead the most laps, but you could very, very quickly find yourself, spending an extra 3, 4, 5 seconds in the pits. It really could play multiple different ways, as it looks like Michael O'Dell, him and Bradshaw still going at it back for P11.
These guys have been connected at the hip the entire race. Favini trying to track them down while they try to track down Tom Gradwell. Adam Bradshaw definitely wants to get that spot from Gradwell to get that Masters Division win and to get more points. If Joshua Justice were in the session, he would be upset with me if I didn't talk about those bonus points a little bit. You do get a bonus point for leading a lap, and there is 1 point for leading the most laps. Those bonus points can come in handy when you're in a tight points battle, but getting just 1 point for leading the most laps might not be the best strategy if you have to sacrifice a good finishing position in order to get those laps led. And that's like what I think we're seeing out of Marco Pinero. He's like, you guys, whoever wants to lead, they can lead. I'm just going to chill out. But we're talking about how exciting this racing is. I bet most of these drivers are absolutely cool as cucumbers in their cars. And they're like, it wasn't that bad. When we talked to him after the race, they're like, there's a lot of shuffling, but it wasn't crazy. Until that Wilkie guy came dive bombing up the inside the way he did. Wilkie, with the man, he's going to need a second car to carry his balls of steel around him after making that move. That's going to be the move of the season. I'm going to give him a little bit of crap for it, Zippy, but man, what a move.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you there, as he's actually shuffled back right now to P8. As Marco Pinero, what's going on here? Oh my word, what's going on? That's Bradshaw.
Bradshaw. And Pinero's off. He's slow. So if Favini goes blowing past both of those, Pinero off the track slow. Bradshaw with a lot of damage. It looks like Pinero he's had an incident. I'm not sure. We see the very tail end of this on the infield section of the track. I'm calling it the infield. It's just the inside section, and it looks like at turn 7 he's off the track. Didn't see what started that. Look here. Maybe is he getting involved with Wilkie? Tries to make the move on the inside of Wilkie on turn 6. Runs a little bit wide there. Kind of pushes Wilkie out and comes back across the nose of Wilkie, and Wilkie sends him off to the shadow realm a bit there. So Pinero losing a handful of spots, gets it back on track and right into the path of Adam Bradshaw, who didn't quite know where to go. And he takes that big lick, loses the front end of that car. Pinero's going to pull off the track and say, that's enough for me, boys. Take it back to the pit lane. He's done.
I got to be honest, I do want to kind of review that one again. Let's see if we can get a different view here. So Pinero's sending it up a bit on the inside. And then Wilkie looking to... I'm not sure what to make of that.
That's a tough call. We'll see what the stewards say about that one, because they'll definitely be taking a look. In my opinion, that's the result of hard racing. Pinero raced him hard into that corner, and Wilkie raced him hard into the next one. Wilkie was pushed off track, rejoined, there's a lot of things to look at there, and it's really tough to assign blame.
Well, this is one of the reasons I'm glad I am not a steward, as it's realistically, you know, how do you want to call some of these? But again, that is a Stevie Ray problem, and I do wonder as well. Usually, I actually used this in a broadcast the other day. It wasn't even a Weekend Warriors one, but the Stevie Ray shotgun, you could say, is like the commentator's curse on steroids. You know, it's fair to say this thing's got some caliber to it. But Wilkie under a little bit of fire there, but has he managed to stay with the lead pack? Not quite. He's going to really have to put the work in if he wants to catch back up to Bobby West, who's currently a second ahead. But we did see it was the top 9 cars before fighting for that lead. Gradwell, he's a bit further back, so now the 9 becomes 8, potentially 7. Wilkie's going to really have to put the hammer down if he wants to catch on to the back of Bobby West.
That also taking out Bradshaw puts Odell in a bit of a bubble himself. He's not going to have any help to try to close that gap up. So now he just needs to set quality pace laps, hope that it's enough to close that gap, maybe give a good pit entry and pit exit and a short pit stop. He's probably been able to save a fair amount of fuel after all those laps running behind Bradshaw, but he's got his work cut out for him. We see Jörg Manny trying to make his way through the field. Not the greatest start for Jörg, but currently up 9 spots. Ahead of him, Paulo Brame, who's up 14 spots. We look ahead up to P11. Andrea Favini up 16 spots. So we saw Favini blow through that incident. Got a couple freebies out of that. Kurt Nunez, and this three-way battle is still going on. Nothing has disturbed this fight. Right now, Brewster hanging on the back of Jančić, who's on the back of Kurt Nunez. It's calmed down a little bit. They're not all out and out fighting at this moment, but we're seeing pit strategy coming into effect now as Kurt Nunez and Jančić both dip into the pit lane. We'll see who wins that race off pit lane, and if Brewster's able to make the overcut work, we see the stricken car of Marco Pinero still sitting there in the pit lane. A sad day in the Pinero household.
Well, it's fair to say, race ended. Nice driving Wilkie with like a laughing, crying face. I have invited Marco Pinero to come into the booth, but certainly, Widler, I'd enjoy hearing your perspective about that incident. You know, we can review it a little bit as well, as Jančić burning out the wheels definitely got away from the pit box a lot quicker there than Nunez, so be interesting to see. And also, whoever decided to put this camera on the opposite side of the glass, I've got to say, you are not my favorite person at this point.
Jančić stopped for 12.92 seconds. Nunez stopped for 16.03 seconds. We're seeing times from 12.5 seconds to 16 seconds. So neither of those are terribly outside of the window of normal. Jančić maybe going to have to deal a little bit of fuel saving. We haven't seen him do much of that in the race so far. So unless while we cut away from that battle, he was doing it. We see Jörg Manny now up to 14th position while the pit cycle starts. Here, he still needs to come in to get fuel, but the top 19 of this race so far have not pit yet. Right now, the first driver that has pit is Jančić, all the way down to 20th place. We'll see where he eventually shakes out. None of the leaders have come in yet, but we're past 22 and a half minutes into this race, so the pit window is definitely open. We're going to start seeing that pit lane see some action here over the next 3 or 4 laps.
Well, as we say that gap between Wilkie and Bobby West has opened up from 1 second to 2 seconds, so it's fair to say that he is out of the draft at the minute, and I do wonder if maybe he sustained a little bit of damage with that incident with Marco Pinero. So I do wonder at this point, if I was Wilkie, I'd be trying to book it into the pits as quick as possible, potentially take a fast repair, and realistically, if you're not in a draft, it is not... You know, you're not gaining anything for being out in the clean air necessarily. Don't get me wrong, that is better than being stuck behind someone who is not quite at the same pace as you. But at this point, I would be looking to bring that car into the pits and hopefully try and get a little bit of an undercut move performed.
That's a pretty sound call. We're not seeing heavy damage on that car, but at a track like this, a little bit of damage goes a long way into hurting your lap times, and Wilkie is seeing that right now. Aleix Pleva leading the snake through turns 3 and 4. They're all still pretty much bumper to bumper in that pack. Wilkie not going to be getting any slipstream, not getting any help. So even if these drivers are backing off a little bit early because of the cars ahead of them, they're not really slowing down all that much, and they're able to save fuel in the process. So we'll see who has the best pit stop out of all this. And the one that I really thought was in the best position is now out of this race. Marco Pinero now not going to be able to flex that pit strategy muscle and watch him jump everybody coming out of the pit stop. But we see William Brown. Sorry, not William Brown. Yes, yeah, William Brown. That is his name. I got it right. I got it right. Still has all the bricks on that car sitting in a strong P5. Going to see where he shakes out after the pit stop. Right now, looking clean, looking racy. He's not been making many aggressive moves, but he is right there in a good position as we see Jason Green trying to break up that slipstream just a little bit. Not going to get much of it done there. A bit of defending going on behind him from Hayden Bramley, but nobody really looking to make any moves. I think we're going to start seeing some of these leaders come into the pits here.
Well, at the minute, I think Les Plaver is holding the short straw. He's been leading for a couple of laps now, and it's fair to say that Hayden Bramley and Co behind him will all be enjoying the gas-saving privileges of not being in that top spot. It's almost like holding the hot potato at this point, and at that point as well, do you go and pit early just so you're not in the lead? Do you lift off and tuck behind? Like, I honestly don't know how to play this. You know, Randall, how would you handle this situation?
If I'm in the rear of this pack, I want to come in probably when I have 2 laps of fuel left to try to get enough pace out of the car and then perform an undercut. But if drivers start pitting in front of me and I'm towards the back of this grid, I'm going to wait till the absolute last minute and try to gain as much track position off slipstream to try to make up that difference in undercut. As we see Jason Green taking the move along the outside to get the lead going into turn 1, that's going to shuffle Aleix back to second place. William Brown now up to 4th has gotten around Kane Lasky, so we're starting to see some movement up front, but we definitely need to see some of these drivers come in for fuel. Pit stop times are going to be paramount, and how well you can attack that pit entry is probably going to make the difference.
100%, Randall. Certainly, if you start taking an extra second or 2 seconds of fuel, you are very quickly going to be out away from this pack. And not only that, you know, some guys they will take a couple of tires. I've actually seen, thinking of Dr. Swank. Whenever I watch his streams actually on Twitch, he will often take 2 tires, which to me seems crazy, but he'll often take 2 tires because it's basically free while he's taking fuel. Now, can't say that I've ever seen that strategy or tried that strategy, but maybe another option to think about. And does it apply to the Spec Ford in comparison to like a GT3 car, for example?
I don't think it applies as much to these cars because they take a few laps to get up to temperature, and I'm not sure if they can actually get 2 tires changed. In fact, there will not be a strategy in this car because I'm pretty sure this car changes not left and right sides, but front and back. So if you change tires, you're changing fronts or rears, and that's not going to be very helpful. As we see William Brown gets it a little wiggly there under braking, has to get out of it, is going to give up the spot to Kane Lasky. Kane Lasky in a good position here to get some time made up. He's going to have a little bit of a gap in front of him, but with that slipstream, he's going to be able to close that up pretty well. So gets that spot away from William Brown and now needs to either dip into the pit lanes to make good on that move or stay out there and try to close that gap before coming in the pit lane. As we see, first and third and 6th place going to dip into the pit lane. Jason Green, Hayden Bramley, William Brown, all 3 making their way into pit lane. Good call by William Brown, by the way. I think that's going to be a really good move for him. As long as he has a nice quick stop, he's going to have some slipstreaming partners and maybe have the opportunity to leapfrog his way up that lead pack, maybe even come out in the front of this.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. So he's got Brown behind him, he's got Bramley ahead, and that rev limit is being smashed harder than a pinata at Halloween, and he's away from Bramley. Bramley a little bit behind, so the order stays the same. Where's Brown, though?
Brown is stopped for about 8/10 longer than Bramley and 1.1 seconds longer than Jason Green. So he's going to be in danger here of losing the slipstream. He's really going to have to get on it. He's going to have a mega outlap to try to close this gap. But right now, your effective leader, Jason Green, going to be sitting in P11. It was the first of the leaders to come in. We're seeing others come in. Paulo Bream, Paul Jackson, both in the pit lane. Marco Pinero still sitting in pit lane. He's done for the day, but 2 drivers in with a 16:75 and a 13:63 stop time, respectively. So Paulo Bream with a long stop. He was not saving much fuel. He's trying to make his way up through the field, so he needed to stop for a little bit longer. Jan Jančić leading this group right now. Jeff Jacobson behind him. His compatriots or his foes that he was battling with earlier are nowhere around him right now, so it looks like possibly they had come into the pit lane to try to break up that fight a little bit. In fact, yes, Jančić was the first of the real pit strategy or the real pit cycle to start. So Jančić now in P14 trying to get it done. He's 2 spots ahead of Nunez, who he was fighting with earlier.
Well, it looks like the battle has indeed returned, and Andrea Favini was able to catch up to the back of the 197 car. The newcomer here, Michael Odell, and it's fair to say Favini applying plenty of pressure. You can see Tom Gradwell up the street by about 2.5 seconds, and that's Brewster there in the background of the shot as well. So definitely some battles going on. These guys spread out a little bit, but Favini currently up an absolutely incredible 19 positions. As a less player, Bobby West, Wilkie, oh my God, there's loads of them in the pits right now.
Basically, the rest of the lead pack all coming in on this lap. Kane Lasky, Simon Mayer both staying out. So Kane Lasky of that lead group is the only one that's staying out. He's going to have no slipstream this entire lap. A tricky call from him. We'll see how this works out for him. But Aleix Pleva going to lead this parade off of pit lane. So Aleix Pleva, will see where he comes out in with regard to Jason Green and Hayden Bramley. See, here they come. Right now, it's going to be a race down to turn one. Looks like Green is going to have the momentum and going to get it done. Bramley going to follow him along. So a gap there. Are they going to be close enough to get the slipstream back, though? Possibly. Aleix is going to have to be on it here through the first couple corners to close this gap up a little bit, and it looks like he's going to be there. He's going to have just enough to have a vestige of that slipstream and try to close that gap here in the technical section of the track. But right now, Jason Green leading the way after the pit strategy. Your effective race leader, Kane Lasky, Simon Mayer ahead of them, still need to come into the pits. But an absolute monumentally good pit stop for Jason Green has put him in from the lead back into the effective lead of this race.
Well, if I was Hayden Bramley right now, I would be giving Jason Green as much of a bump draft as I can, because at the 1 second threshold, they can just about shake it, but it is closing and closing, albeit not by much. I'd say it's hovering about the second right now. They really need. Plaver's going to have to catch onto the back of them. Bobby West, he's fine. He's within 7/10 of Plaver, so he's got a draft. He's got some help, but if Aleix Plaver can't get close enough to the back of Bramley, that may be the podium out of the win for him.
Jason Green's got a big opportunity here. He's got to think, what does he want to do? Does he want to try to open this gap and only have Bramley to fight? Or does he want to try to break up the slipstream and try to put Bramley back into the clutches of Pleva and hopefully establish a gap off that? It's a bit of a coin toss. We'll see what he does as Kane Lasky and Simon Mayer both enter the pit lane. So Kane Lasky pits out of the lead. Simon Mayer right there on him, so he's as much a part of this fight as anybody else. So we'll see where these two shake out as Mayer's going to have the earlier pit stall compared to Lasky, and Lasky's going to come in much further down the pit lane. So we'll see who gets the faster stop out of these two and exactly where they come out. Jason Green going to be coming down the front straight here very soon. And right now, even, he makes his way past the pit entry. Both cars still stationary. Simon Mayer with a 1082, Kane Lasky with 1122, both with very, very rapid stops, but not faster than Jason Green. And Jason Green's got all that speed as he goes blowing past them, with Hayden Bramley right there on his gearbox, not looking to push or make a move yet, but it definitely looked like he was pushing maybe a little bit down the straightaway. So we got three pairs of drivers up here in this battle for the lead, trying to recoalesce this group. But right now, Jason Green, Hayden Bramley running away with this fight, and we'll see. They'll probably keep it pretty tame until the white flag comes out.
Well, Aleix Plaver, the gap before was 1 second. I did see it get as low as 7/10, but that little bump drafting from Bramley, I think, has really done the trick. And now, what do you do if you're Aleix Plaver and Bobby West? You know, do you try and push and help each other? Because Kane Lasky, he is barely within the draft. It's about 8/9 of a second. Mayer, again, 8/9. Brown, 8/9. So this has really put these guys back in it. Wilkie, sadly enough, he's dropped right back off. But good news, though, for him is his nearest competition, certainly for the championship, would be Andrew Love, and Andrew Love is back there in 17th. Don't get me wrong, we got Jan Janchik. He's having a great day right now, P3 in S2. He's got Michael Odell ahead of him, but again, Odell is a new driver here to the Weekend Warriors, so for championship points, Wilkie is sat very, very tidy. He's realistically just got to bring this race home for him at this point. As we have a look, Jan Janchik, he's back there with Jacobson fighting again. He dips, he dives. Can he get the move done? Having an absolutely fantastic race today, albeit a little bit spicy, as he's going there on the inside of Jacobson. It is the number 445 versus the 40. Jacobson takes it back, but for how long?
It's going to give Janchik, who would have had the inside line, or sorry, he would have had the outside line for that corner. He looks like he backed out a little bit to make sure that covered off. Looks like he has possibly a lap car between them back to Nunez and Brewster, who he was fighting with earlier. So his pit stop was good enough to give him a nice cushion over those two as he's trying to deal with Jacobson. And no, that's Kurt Nunez there behind him. And then quite a further way back is Jim Brewster. So Nunez hoping that these two fight enough that he's able to close that gap up and re-engage with Jančík to try to get that spot back. Those two, we saw some bumping and banging out of those two. Nothing too heavy, but definitely letting each other know a little bit about the other one. So we'll see if Nunez is able to close this gap up. Jančík going to have a huge slipstream here. We'll see if he makes a move going into turn one. He's got that big run, and he's
bump
back
draft.
He's going to bump draft. He's going to pushing Jacobson up the racetrack. We heard him back out just so he didn't make too heavy a contact, because you can lift the rear wheels of these cars off pretty easily. So good call out of Jančík to tap the brake just a little bit to get that bump to be nice and smooth. And Nunez hopefully going to be able to close that gap up, but it's not looking very good if Jančík's going to be employing those kind of teamwork maneuvers. Nunez is going to be really hurting for some slipstream.
Well, you see that we got another battle emerging. This time, Jim Brewster, he's going to be in the middle of that. He's got Brad Cathcart ahead and Andrew Love behind. Now, certainly, Brad Cathcart and Brewster will be fighting because they are both competing for the Masters. Actually, we'll have a look at the championship points again, refresh our memory very quickly. Whereabouts are these guys here in the points? Let's have a quick look. So, Cathcart is currently third. Brewster's a little bit further back. So, okay, that shouldn't be a huge issue, but certainly these guys are going to want to play and they are going to be competing. As we have a look as well back at the front, Jason Green and Bramley still there leading the pack. Lasky's got the second, and these guys all just about within 6 tenths of a second of each other.
Pleva closing the gap, or has let a little bit of a gap form between he and Lasky. He was actually in front of Lasky, so now Pleva in fourth place has given the spot to Lasky to see if he can possibly close this gap. Bobby West now all over the back of Pleva. This group is starting to reform a little bit, but it's the wrong end of the group that you want to see reform. It's the back of the group, and they need to keep it clean and not fight each other if they're going to try to catch these leaders. But Jason Green and Hayden Bramley don't look to be interested in losing any time at all. Bramley pushing him down the front straight once again. We're going to see these two do this until the very last moment, and then Bramley going to try to go for that win. But right now, teamwork and making this dream work, as that gap back to P3 is up to nearly 1.7 seconds. So definitely out of that slipstream range.
Yeah, certainly. I think these guys are going to basically write off the podium at this point, and they're going to start fighting amongst themselves. William Brown, a little bit unlucky there in the pit stops. He took a little bit more than everybody. But I say that, it wasn't by a crazy amount. Bobby West, actually, 9.3 second pit. He's the fastest out of the top bunch by about a second. So I am wondering if he is going to have the juice to be able to bring this race to a close.
Bobby West was one of the few drivers in that group that really didn't lead any of that section. So he was able to save a lot of fuel. So he's normally not one of those people that competes for the Adam Thompson Award for fuel strategy. So it could be an inaugural win for him. But normally his strategy and his calculations are pretty good that it puts him there. But as I say that gap to Aleix Pleva is open up. So maybe you're right, and he's having to employ some saving strategies, enough so that it's causing him some time and putting him back in the clutches of Mayer and Brown.
Yes, at this point, certainly to say he is not in the draft for Aleix Pleva, so that podium is very much out of it. Simon Mayer will be applying pressure very shortly, as will William Brown. If one of them doesn't, the other will. Wilkie is even further back. He's 6.3 seconds behind Brown. As let's have a look, Michael O'Dowd, he's caught up to the back of Tom Gradwell. These guys are going to be fighting. And it looks like Jeff Jacobson and Jan Jančík, these guys still going at it. Jan Jančík does appear to have a bit of damage, though, on the right front corner of that race car.
You have to wonder if maybe those two have come together, because he didn't have that damage before. Possibly a curb strike. There are some sausage curbs on the inside of some of these corners that could possibly cause a little bit of damage due to suspension travel or just plain from striking them. But right now he's got that move done on Jacobson, and he's opening up a bit of a gap. So I wonder if these two tangled, maybe Jacobson's carrying a little bit of damage that's harder for us to see, but it's very easy to see it there on Jan Jančík's car. There, that that right front looking a little bit battered. It's as battered as my language today, apparently.
It's all right. If you want something battered, I'd take a sausage and chips. You know, I people always ask me, what do you miss about the UK? Like, do you miss your sister? I'm like, nope. I miss the food, I miss the cars, and I miss the roads. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That's just how it is. But
I hate to interrupt you here, but I thought Hayden Bramley and Jason Green were going to wait until the end of this race to start fighting for that position. But no, I was wrong. Hayden Bramley now in the lead of this race with Jason Green still hot on his heels. So I wonder if maybe Bramley thinks, all right, we have enough of a gap. I want the lead.
Well, certainly that gap is currently about 1.1 seconds behind, and the more these guys fight, the more Lasky's going to get pulled into the mix. It looks like Bobby West, he is indeed fighting, and Simon Mayer has made the pass on him at this point. So I do wonder, is the British driver going to be carrying a little bit too little fuel? Is he really just in survival at this point? He's got about 6.2 seconds back to Wilkie, so realistically, as long as he can coast this car home, he should be okay. But we're going to be looking out for the white flag. I've not seen it yet. Certainly, if you have, let me know there, Randall. But these guys are still going hard at it. And you got to wonder as well, when is
White flag is in the air, yes.
White flag's in the air, thank you. Tomorrow, that's aimed especially for you. But you have got to wonder as well, is this one of those tracks where you want to have the tactical pass and certainly let your competition by at a certain moment? Because, for example, you might be able to get that pass done on the start-finish straight. That looked like a bit of a slide there from Bramley.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a slide. If you're going to use up your tires, now's the time to do it. You need to carry as much speed through this section as possible. Didn't look like it cost him much time at Jason Green. Oh no, he's got a fuel possibly. He's tapping the brakes and possibly has a slowdown, but it looks like fuel trouble or possibly some gamesmanship out of Bramley here. He's going to have the slipstream coming out of the last corner. Gets a good run there. Jason Green going to take the lead coming out of the last corner.
He sandbagged it.
Absolute gamesmanship. And I don't know how I feel about it, but it looks like Bramley going to have enough to get the win coming down the front straight and gets it by a nose over Jason Green. Kane Lasky going to come home third. Malaish Pleva fourth. William Brown in his first race going to come home fifth over Simon Mayer. Bobby West did struggle with fuel there out of the last corner, comes home seventh. Josh Wilkie going to finish up 2 spots from where he started in eighth. Ninth place up 18 spots, Andrea Favini. And then it looks like
that's close.
A fight here.
Ooh.
We got a fight. Ooh, looks like Gradwell just barely ahead of Michael Adele is going to come home with your Masters Division win. And then we have a few more drivers coming across the line. Cathcart and Brewster duking it out over the line. It looks like Brewster got the better of him there to take 15th away from Cathcart. Andrew Love coming home 17th, and Jason Green going to park the car here and going to come home at second place overall. After some gamesmanship out of Bramley, I would have pushed him wide if it were me.
I definitely think Bramley, he knew that he wanted to. I feel so bad for JG. Bramley literally just schooled the guy. Like, I don't know. Like, in terms of the rules and stuff like that, like, as far as I can tell, that would be completely legit. It's just unfortunate. But I'm going to see if I can get a quick replay up of that. Just give me 1 second there, Randall.
I'm gonna use some colorful language here, and this is not at all reflective of how I feel about Hayden Bramley as a driver. But there's a scene in the movie The Big Lebowski where one of the characters who's very angry all the time it says something like, "Am I wrong? Am I wrong?" And the other character says, "No, you're not wrong. You're just an asshole." So sometimes you got to be an asshole to win. I'm not saying that Hayden Bramley's an asshole or that what he did was wrong. It was the winning move. He got the move done. Jason Green comes home second. I'm just saying that if it was me in the car and I saw Bramley do that, I would have been pushing him wide at the last corner.
Well, I'm going to try and find that pass. Just give me 1 second here. Let me see here.
This is the last lap coming down to turn one. We see Bramley looks to the inside here. I think so. Maybe I'm being a little heavy-handed here with Bramley, and maybe the gamesmanship started at this point. Maybe Jason's like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of lift early, make it look like I'm struggling for fuel, let Bramley have the inside of turn one, and then follow him for the entire lap. So I could be absolutely wrong here. Maybe I'm the asshole. That's okay. But we see some gamesmanship going on, and yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out in the interview. I'm not trying to characterize Hayden Bramley here as being wrong. Maybe there was some gamesmanship going both ways and we just missed it, but he did get the win. So you got to hand it to him. The strategy worked out. I'm sorry, Hayden, if it seems like I'm coming down on you. I prefer to see good, hard, fair racing. And what you did, completely legal and within your rights to do it. You see tapping the brakes there. Jason even backs out a little bit. I would have made sure that we're still alongside each other coming into that last corner. Maybe even if I didn't push him wide, just making sure that he doesn't get a good run on slipstream. But Jason probably not expecting it and just reacting, and by the time he realized what was going on, it was too late. But it's good enough to give the win to Bramley. And if I know Jason Green at all, he's not upset about that. He's like, wow, I got played.
Oh, he definitely got played on that one. But look at the interview room. Let's get these results done really, really quickly, and then we can start talking to some of these drivers. Just give me a second here. And where's the button? Boom. There you go. Randall, take it away, sir.
With some gamesmanship in the last lap, we see that Hayden Bramley comes home with your win by 4/100ths of a second over Jason Green. Kane Lasky was pushing hard to get that gap closed up. If you would have had one more lap, I think we would have seen a three-way fight for this win. Kane Lasky comes home third. Aleix Pleva, who led a good portion of the start of this race, comes home fourth. William Brown, in his first race, comes home fifth. Simon Mayer in sixth. Bobby West, who struggled with fuel there at the end, had a very quick pit stop, a little too quick, comes home seventh. Joshua Wilkie, after we seen him tangling with Marco Pinero, manages to come home in P8. Andrea Favini works his way up from the back of the field all the way to P9. And then Tom Gradwell comes home P10 with your Masters win. 21st sees Paul Jackson down one spot from where he started. Daniel Wood coming home 22nd. He had some trouble in this race. Started 16 spots higher than where he finished. Not a great day for Daniel Wood, but still comes home 22nd. 23rd goes to Richard Yellen, one of the drivers that started at the back of the field, up 6 spots. Adam Bradshaw, who we saw become the unfortunate innocent bystander in the incident with Marco Pinero and Josh Wilkie, loses the nose of that car, comes home down 11 spots in 24th. 25th will be Gary Wobolt. Jörg Manny, who started at the back of the field in 26th spot, finishes where he started, so not able to make his way through the field. Jörg Manny finishes 26th. Michelle Viglini down 4 spots in 27th. Marco Pinero, who we saw get involved in that incident and retire the car early, finishes in P28th. Russell Telker 29th, and Joaquin Effinger comes home in 30th.
Well, we're going to do things a little bit more differently this time. Just I've got a lot of people I want to talk to in the interview room. So what we're going to do, we're going to troll the boat a little bit here. Randall, let's bring in both Hayden Bramley and Jason Green. Now, you guys were absolutely scrapping at the end of that. Now, Randall, by all means, tell us what we're all wondering at home. Ask the question, sir.
So Hayden, we saw a little bit of gamesmanship going into the last corner, and then upon replay, we saw that maybe there was a little bit of gamesmanship going into turn 1 of that lap as well. Did you feel that maybe Jason tried to snooker you going into turn 1, so you turned it back on him, or what was going on there?
Turn 1 on the last lap.
Yeah.
I think he probably knew he wanted to be in the behind. I was happy passing because I thought I would have the pace to pull away, and I was for a bit until I almost dropped it in like the 4th last corner. So that's when I decided, all right, I'll put my bad line for the last corner and try and switch back.
Okay, so let me turn the tables here. Jason, when you saw Hayden tapping the brakes coming up the last corner, did you know what was happening, or were you just reacting?
It completely caught me off guard. I couldn't, because he was on the brakes. I thought he might have gotten a slowdown, because it's kind of hard to tell. So yeah, I almost ran over him. So yeah, I'm not entirely happy with it, but I mean, it's it would have been close either way. So it would have come down to less than a 10th. But yeah, I thought I could, if I was in a good position in the last corner, thought I could get him. I was getting better exits, so I didn't. If I was ahead, then fine. If I was behind, then fine. So.
You both had amazing pit stops, and you came out right together. And Hayden, you were pushing Jason. How much were you watching that rear view mirror to see who was coming up in P3 and if they were closing that gap at all?
I think there was Kane behind us. When we came out the pits, or when we were all out the pits, he was like 2.3 behind or something, and by the end he was like 1.5. So I was definitely making sure I wasn't losing too much time by not passing him. But it wasn't. I saw it wasn't coming down hugely fast, so I thought it'll be fine to stay behind because I was still worried about fuel as well.
Yeah, if you guys had a couple more laps, I think Kane would have caught you, and it would have been a three-way fight. But great race, great show out of both of you. Hayden, before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
Brian Lockwood, my coach. If you want coaching services, go to him as well. He's fantastic. And I've got my family and girlfriend watching, so them too.
And Jason, before we let you go celebrate as well, is there anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
As always, shout out to Stevie, who he wasn't here, but he had to do some background work to get the session set up properly. So thank you, Stevie, for everything you do. Thanks for everybody that showed up. I think we managed to get 30 people here at a track that I don't think many people that run the series own. So it's always awesome to have this big of a grid here. So thanks to everybody that showed up.
Well, maybe we'll see a repeat out of you two next week, and we'll see who comes out on top in the race next week. So good luck to both of you. Congratulations to both of you on a very exciting race and a very exciting finish.
Thank you.
Great job, Hayden.
You too.
Well,
and that was your top two, Jason Green and Hayden Bramley. We're over here causing some friction, rubbing some stuff together, see what happens.
Oh, yeah, it's nearly time for fireworks, isn't it, Randall? But I tell you what, who should we get in next? Should we take the S2 winner or should we take the Masters? Your call, sir. I'll interview whoever.
I think we should get Joshua Wilkie in here, your Spec 2 winner.
Well, but it's kind of a hard sell.
Hey, Josh. Surprise, buddy.
Hey,
you are in the booth, sir. So I've got to say, my first question, actually, we're going to go back to the Formula Ford race. What happened with your pit stop that you were in there for 52 seconds? There's still a question that I haven't been able to answer.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little unfortunate. I'm probably an iRacing side thing, but I clipped the entrance coming in. Like, I don't know by how much. I'm kind of silly, and I didn't really practice coming in the pit there, and it sort of surprised me. But I clipped the entrance, and it gave me a 40-second hold for clipping the entrance, which seems egregious to me. I don't know why it would be set that high. It's just a complete race ender. I probably should have just parked it. But yeah, that's what happened anyway. I had a kind of crappy race, to be honest, but still had fun.
Well, certainly it went a little bit better for you in this one. You managed to get the P1 in the S2, and certainly you were there in a scrap for a while. Now, certainly Marco Pinero, you guys, actually, I got to admit, you did one of the most epic moves. I think Randall described it as you will need a second car to carry your large gentleman organs, I think would be the best way of phrasing that. But
nice and PC there, yeah.
Yeah. It was. You're going to enjoy watching the broadcast, Josh. I know you will, but. Was it me or did my eyes deceive me? You went and made a move and got Marco Pinero and Hayden Bramley in one corner earlier on.
Yeah, so I noticed that everybody was taking that corner really wide, and I had been practicing it going really deep and late on the brakes and then trying to get on the power early, and I'd been practicing that all week. And I just noticed that that's probably a place I can get up under them, especially if I can surprise them a little bit. I think I got another driver about 2 laps earlier that I practiced it kind of, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go for it. And I shot it up the inside, nice and controlled too. And then I think Hayden actually came down like, hey, I don't think that's going to work for you there, buddy. And he gave me a little bump, and I just put my shoulder out and stayed in it, and it worked out for me. So that was good. Yeah, it was a fun move though, for sure. And I've been kind of planning it for a lap or two, so.
Yeah, it definitely made for very entertaining watching. Certainly, Marco Pinero wasn't the most thrilled about that, but certainly it's one of those things with swings and roundabouts. We saw the incident with Wan Chi Lin back at the Nuremberg ring, where, it was definitely a little bit colorful there. So definitely, if you race hard, be prepared for people to race back harder, but certainly a very good result for you and a new challenger for you as well in terms of Michael O'Dell. Certainly their first time here, barely sliding into S2. I'm sure you know how that feels at this point, Josh. Certainly you're getting familiar with almost a little bit nicknamed as a sandbagger, but I agree and disagree. You work very hard to get the S2 results that you do, and certainly it doesn't always work out. But I've got to say congratulations, Josh, on the S2 win, and yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you back here in the booth, and certainly if you want to see more action of Josh, albeit not on the track, he'll be here Wednesday night for the Ray Esports Club Racing League.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely Wednesday nights are great. Yeah, and that little scuffle with Pinero there too. I know he gave me a bit of afterwards there. He's not too happy about it. I really don't know where he expected me to go on that one. He's bumping me and rubbing me every corner as if he's just supposed to be in front of me for some reason. So I'm not really sure where he expected me to go there. He really sent it up the inside of me, bumped me off the road. I mean, other than me just going off the road and letting them through, which is, I guess, what he wanted me to do. That's always what was going to happen there. So Not really sure why he tried to spin me on the straightaway before that either. Not really sure what that sort of tactic is there. He's fast enough not to do things like that. So a little disappointed, to be honest, but good racing with him nonetheless. And I'm glad I came out where I did. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I can't wait to watch the broadcast back.
Oh, absolutely. And Josh, obviously, as well, with your expertise, by all means, let me know if you think I can do something better. And I know you'll direct me to people there in the chat. I'll say have definitely been helping me try and get the audio sorted out. It's certainly a bit challenging, but I've got to say congratulations, Josh, and what an absolutely fantastic race. But we're gonna get this show on the road to a close. Actually, Randall, if you would like to do the honors, sir.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Tom Gradwell. I'm sorry I got the names mixed up and dismissed you from the interview waiting room there, Tom, and I got that wrong. So next week, if you're around, we'll get you an interview for this week. You definitely deserve to talk to us after your Masters Division win. So that's my fault, Tom. My apologies, but that will wrap up the race here at Mugello. And what a race it was, Zippy.
Oh, it was absolutely epic. Epic race. Like, don't get me wrong, we was spoiled with the Formula 4s, and then the SRFs. Like, I was a little bit nervous coming in. Like, it's a track I didn't know, and certainly watching it, this looked like a track that I've actually really enjoyed, and the racing was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we saw so many different tactics. We saw some people, you know, choosing to try and save on the fuel. We saw some people fighting it outright, like Yanya and Cheek, absolutely fighting tooth and nail. Certainly a different way of doing it, but a lot more fun. And at the end of the day, Randall, like, I was saying this to Ron the other day, like, so it's often a question that's not really asked, but like, why do you race? Do you race because you want to win, or do you race because you want the battle? And I think today was an absolutely fantastic demonstration of that.
Absolutely. And I have to say, this community is second to none, really. The Weekend Warriors community is incredible, and we do see some disagreements between some drivers, but the disagreements we have in this league, in this community, are civil at their worst. So while we have some drivers disagreeing out there, at the end of the day, we're all good friends in this community. So the Weekend Warriors community is absolutely awesome there. And Daniel, I think we have some upcoming broadcasts we kind of want to let everybody know about. Wednesday, November 13th, Bray Esports Club Racing League is going to be at Homestead. And then next Saturday, the Formula Vs for the Weekend Warriors going to take to Lime Rock Park. Next Sunday, the Formula Fords for the Weekend Warriors going to be into the confines of Suzuka. That should be a really good race for those cars. And then next week, these same Spec Racer Fords for the Weekend Warriors going to be taking to the tight confines of Tsukuba. Absolutely amazing. And then on the 20th, the Group 1 for Club Racing League of Ray Esports going to be in the Miatas at Mount Panorama. And Daniel, I think we got one more you want to tell us about?
So
a bunch more.
On our sister channel, Pit Road Productions, as well, we do have the BIS series going now. Both of those series do have real life prizes up for the drivers. So for the BIS Radical Canada Cup, these guys are fighting in a pro and amateur class to drive a real radical race car. There's that going on. Certainly some interesting competition there. Some names you may recognize. Certainly we've seen Suelio Almeida making an appearance at such an event, and he's also one of the sponsors, I believe, for BIS F1600 Championship as well. Certainly some product available there. And for the F1600s, a real drive again available for these guys. So certainly, don't get me wrong, they are paid leagues. It's one of those things where, you know, with a prize like that, obviously, you know, they need to help try and sustain that, and it's one of the things that makes them for some very, very tight and very interesting competition. Certainly, I think the Radical Grid, we just had like 50 plus cars at Sebring. It was absolutely insane. So if that's something we want to take a look at, that's up on Wednesday nights.
And that is going to be it for us here at Slow Motion Broadcasting from Tuscany, Italy at Autodromo del Mugello. Another exciting race from the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford. Don't forget to go check out the ALS Foundation website. If you got some money to give during this season for charity, consider the ALS Foundation. My name's Randall McGrew. I've been joined by Daniel Zippy Salmon. Once again, shout out to Ray Esports, the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford. And we will see you again next week.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and you need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
the field in Castro's hands, and he's going immediately. Gets a good jump there over green and is pulling away. He is gapping early, even moving over to try to break up any sort of slipstream or help that inside line, making sure Green has his hands full coming into T1.
George Chance, did Jason give Antonio just a little bit of a slow up? It doesn't look like it. Antonio down to the inside. Hopefully going to be able to make this move. Oh, that was close.
Soto both coming very hot with a head of steam. Plava going up to try to move out of the way and give up the slipstream.
Here comes Gilliland.
Slow down. Gilliland coming in, going to try to challenge for this podium. They're going to go too wide.
Oh, no!
Oh, no! Gilliland and Plava come together. Gilliland's going to come back across the line in 4th place.
Quite going to get there. There's a little bit of a lock up there from the 46 car. He's gone deep.
Whoa. I don't know how everybody was able to get through that. That could have been absolute tears for that front runner.